Hey everyone, Monica Laurette here with another video just talking about some books that has changed my life as a reader or as a person. So I want to take you on this kind of journey of nostalgia with me. I have put these books in order of when I read them. For the most part, two of the books I read, I'm gonna say at the same exact time. I don't remember which one I read first because I read them within a year or two. It was both while I was in high school, like sophomore year-ish. So those ones are just put how I want. Before we get into those four books, I just want to do a quick honorable mention for one of them. This book didn't necessarily change my life as a reader, but it has been a very big part of my life since I read that particular series. And that book is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I love this trilogy so much. I love the movies. I have talked about these books to you guys before. I don't feel the books changed me as a person, but they are a significant part of my life. And even though I did not enjoy Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes as much as these books, I am still excited to go and see the movie later on this year. As I checked, it's coming out in November of 2023. But this is my honorable mention. So to set up the scene for the first book, I was in 7th grade. I was not reading much. I hadn't read really since the 5th grade. So it had been about 2 years since I really read anything. But my reading teacher, what he wanted to do was have us do journals where we would take a journal home. It was once a quarter, and we would read in that journal, and either every 5 pages or 5 chapters, I can't remember, I just know it was a 5, we had to detail what was happening in the book, what had happened. I tried to read books and I'm like, I'm just not feeling them. And so my mom suggested a book. My mom is a big James Patterson fan, and so she suggested Witch and Wizard by James Patterson, as well as Gabrielle Charbonnet. I devoured this book. I read it so fast that I was forgetting to write in my journal, so I'd have to stop myself reading to write in this journal. And what I didn't realize is that it was an active series. This was the only book really that was out. I think the second book had just come out, and because I loved it so much, I was gifted the second book for Christmas that year, and I read that, and when every new book came out, I would get it. Even though I haven't revisited this series in a while, I love it still with my heart because it helped me get back into reading. The next 2 books really helped me get into series because besides Witch and Wizard, because it was an active series coming out, it wasn't something I could binge. I wasn't really into series. I was reading a lot of standalone books. And so the next 2 books were, one, helping me get into more fantasy related stuff, as well as a series. I have since remembered right now which one came first. So this book helped me, one, find one of my favorite authors of all time, and helped me get into series reading. And that is The Iron King by Julie Kagawa. It is the first book in the Iron Face series, which leads to all of this. All of Julie's books. But I love this series so much that, against my wallet's wishes, I bought the 10th anniversary cover and Fairy Loot editions of the series. I have the Ebb and Fall ones. I'm waiting for them to release the Call of the Forgotten so I can purchase those. Now, the next book I read a few months later. It was actually a book I had to read for class, which is one of the very few books that I've actually had to read as an assignment for school that I have genuinely enjoyed. And this book helped me get into more of fantasy instead of worlds that connected to ours or that were very similar to ours. Like Witch and Wizard is a version of our world where there is magic and this over-opposing government. With Iron King, the Iron Face series, we go into the Never Never, which is the land of the Fae. So it's not our world, but it is connected. But this book really helped me get into fantasy of just worlds that aren't ours and aren't connected. And that is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I did not devour it as fast as the other ones, but I definitely read this one faster than we were assigned to. And what was also really fun is that the year that we read this in my class, the first movie was coming out. So when we all finished it, we, as like a class, took a trip to go see the first Hobbit movie, where I learned, to my dismay, they were turning this book into 3 movies, and they added storylines and characters that weren't there. And I think it was my first introduction to being disappointed in a movie. I don't even remember being that disappointed in the Hunger Games movie when they took out Madgi. But I was more mad that they added the orcs, because they weren't in this book. They weren't even mentioned. I also love this book so much that I have 2 different versions. I have this paperback copy. I wish I had the version that I read in high school, because they made us pay $8 so we could get copies of the books. And then we were told at the end of the year, if we wanted to keep the books, we could. If not, we could get the $8 back. And I said, oh, I want to keep my copy. And I was not allowed. But I had this edition of The Hobbit that we read in class with a pretty picture of Smaug on the cover. So we have this as the first one, this as the other one that I have, which is Gandalf walking through the Shire. My local library will do these sales where they will take books either that were donated that they don't need, or books out of circulation, movies, stuff like that, and they will sell them to the public. You can go in and you can either get a bag from them or bring in your own reusable shopping bag. You fill the bag as much as you can and you pay $10. One of the first times I ever went to one of these book sales, I found this, a 50th anniversary edition of The Hobbit. Here it is. It's got the runes around it, and there's also some of Tolkien's like original writings in here. There are also beautiful illustrations. Let's see if I can find one. So this is a picture of the mountain path. I remember seeing this and I was so excited. So very happy I got this. The 4th book that has just changed my life as a person, as a reader, is the introduction to another one of my favorite authors. You can see her right here. That book is by Sarah Glenn Marsh, and it is Reign of the Fallen, the first of the duology for Reign of the Fallen. And I purchased this book from a company that last I checked is no longer in business, Page Habit. It was a book subscription box. I never got the subscription. I just paid for singular books. And this was the first one I ever got. The other one was just like bookish items. I really liked the plot of the book, of a girl whose job it is to raise the dead because their king is dead. So to keep him from ruling for years and years and years. Then all of a sudden, like, the dead are dying. It also has annotations on sticky notes within the book from the author. But I remember being iffy on it. I had even seen it in the bookstore and I was like, I don't know, maybe I won't pick it up. But then I was reading it on Goodreads somewhere and I saw that the main character, Odessa, was bisexual. And I immediately purchased the Page Habit box. And this book really helped me come to terms with my own bisexuality, and I just relate so hard to Odessa that she is actually my second cosplay that I've ever done. The first one was Molly Grew from The Last Unicorn, and the second one was Odessa. I have to work on their cosplays a little bit, fix them up, so I'm trying to learn a little bit more sewing technique and skills, but that is this one. And I have purchased everything else that the author has besides some of their kids' books, but I may purchase those soon and like read them to my nephew. But I have loved this book and have not stopped thinking about this duology. From the last video that I talked about of books that I can't stop thinking about, I actually talked about the second book in this trilogy, The Song of the Dead, and then one of the Iron Fae books. So you can see how much these two authors specifically have changed my life. Thank you for watching this and going on this fun little nostalgic journey with me and going over books that are such a big part of my life and changed me as a person and a reader. And I can't wait to read more books in the future that also change me as well. But let me know what books have changed you as a person, as a reader in your life, whether it was a fantasy book, a children's book, a self-help book. Put those down below, and I will see you guys all in the next video. A bientôt!